Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about Labyrinth. Not this Labyrinth. I mean, we will talk about this Labyrinth, but we're going to do I-83 Labyrinth. So there are three of these, Dedication, Gift, and Tribute to the Goddess. They won't be available probably in future leagues, but who knows. But for now, standard only for the I-83 ones. So you have Dedication of the Goddess, which is belt enchants as your reward. You will get one or two with a twice enchanted, so you really want to use twice enchanted with this one. I think I don't want to just throw out a number, but it's either 8 or 15 different enchants. I think there's 8 different enchants. You can find the info on POE They all usually work around some secondary mechanic of the item. So like I have one here, and you can see that it focuses on an additional effect with a status ailment, in this case blind. There's one for like unnerve and intimidate. I'm looking for the consecrated ground one, for example, on this particular belt here. But anyhow, basically, the dedication is belt enchants. Gifts of the Goddess will give you 6 enchants, which is very good for farming your boot and glove enchants. I don't know if I'd use them for helm enchants. Probably still better just to pay a lab runner to do your lab enchants for you, or to just get a base as is. Um, Probably because there's going to be a scarcity of them as people consume them all. And then the Tribute of the Goddess is just extra loot. And, you know, the loot's okay, but it's nothing spectacular, so they're not going to be super valuable or anything. So yeah, we're just going to go into it, and we're just going to kind of talk about lab in general as we go through. These labs have some additional modifiers on them that make things a little faster, make things do a little more damage. Traps are a little stronger. But otherwise, it's just going to be the same as lab would generally be. So we're just going to talk about lab in general as we do this. So when we open it up, the first area is always the same, and I'm just going to pop over to my other screen here and pull up POElab.com. And we're going to click Uberlab. The layout is something that changes every day, right? And this layout is the same until it changes for all of the I-83 and the Uberlab. And we can kind of click here to zoom in. So we're going to see a bunch of things here on the layout that we can use to kind of check how this works. So the first thing we're going to see is in the first room here, we have an A. That means that there's going to be an Argus in the first room. Argus always drops an additional treasure key for an additional chest at the end. Generally, you don't really want to go for the silver keys or the silver doors. They're not very valuable. The G means gauntlet, and the P means puzzle. And any of these gauntlets or puzzles are going to have either a curious lockbox, which gives a treasure key, or they're going to give a labyrinth trove, which I believe is similar to the end reward chests. So nothing super crazy there if you're farming lab keys for like league challenges, or you're farming Argus. Then you want to make sure you have a good layout for doing those things on any particular day. This would have been a great day for farming Argus kills for endgame grinds, because you can just get a group of 6 people, and then you each spend, like 15 or 20 offerings, and you get your 100 kills just in the first room, and then dip the lab, right? Then you got these skulls. These are the 3 aspirants trials. That's where you're going to fight your Izaros. Izaro's mechanics change each day. So today you can see, and I'm not really going to go over all of them because they usually put the details here, or you can look them up elsewhere. But basically, he gets 1 mechanic in the first room. So in this case, we have idols. And then it'll tell you here that you can get an extra key if you do the mechanic. Now, you always can get an extra key from each of these 2 mechanics for a maximum of 2 extra keys from Izaro. But that means usually making Izaro harder. So in this case, you have to wait for him to gain buffs from the idols to get the extra key. But if you stop him from gaining the buffs, or you kill him really quickly, he won't gain those buffs, and then you don't get the extra key. So it's a bit of a trade-off there. And then essences, you can see same thing. Although I do believe for the essences, you have to not kill them. So these instructions can be a little vague sometimes. You might want to look into it a little further if you're interested. And then you can see there's traps in the final zone, but that's not going to reward you an extra key outside of just killing him at the end. And then basically he's going to get stronger as you go through because of these buffs, right? Now throughout the lab, you're going to see some other things. So we have a gold door and a gold key. Now the gold door and gold key are usually mandatory when they appear. So in this case, you have to go to the side room, get the gold key to go through the gold door in order to progress to complete the labyrinth. The D's here in red are the dark shrines. Dark shrines can give you permanent shrine buffs during the lab. They give you extra enchants, extra key drops, extra unique drop from the boss. They can reduce the damage of traps to you. They do all sorts of things. Generally very good to pick up all the ones that are on the way. So we're going to probably be keeping an eye on that as we go through the lab. And you can see here it says he has two-handed mace today. His attacks will actually change depending on his weapon that he has on any given day. We can kind of see what some of his attacks are like. They're usually very similar, but generally speaking, the idea is you don't want to stand in front of him and you don't want to get hit by the goddess attack, but we'll see that as we get through it, right? And there's usually a shortcut somewhere indicated below. Maybe not. It might be that there's not always a shortcut. Usually they mention where the shortcut is somewhere here in the comment if there's a shortcut. And it usually just leads you from one room to another. Some of them are helpful, most of them aren't. Usually skippable. And then there was one other thing I wanted to mention before we ran into this thing. Let me see if I can remember it real quick. We're talking about his weapons, we're talking about the rewards, talking about the traps, dark shrines. Oh yes, this little icon here, the little small circle, these are like trinkets that will give you like some kind of effect to help you with the boss mechanic if you're struggling for whatever reason and need some assistance. But generally you don't want to go for those because it's going to take away from you getting your extra key for not usually much gain, and they're often out of the way. Alright, so let's go and let's find Argus real quick. Now generally the rule of thumb when traveling through the labyrinth, and you can see that with the layout we have a rough idea of where the rooms are going to be, but going up to the top right is usually the play for finding the next room you're supposed to go to. But right now we're just looking for Argus, and you can see he was in this bottom area here. Usually if there's multiple things in a room, they're going to be spread out, but basically the door is going to be in one spot, and then usually the other things are going to be in the other like two corners, and then the door is going to be wherever you came in, right? So just generally in separate directions you're going to find everything, so process of elimination either down here or up in the top left is probably where Argus was going to be, although there are two exits to this room. But we'll take another look at that in a sec. So let's just go check out Argus here. Now, Argus is very slow, but he has an intermittent, like, rage mode. And he does a lot of damage generally, I would say. So you don't really want to go in unprepared. You can see he's kind of keeping pace with me until he attacks, and then I've got some room to breathe. He's got a bit of range on his attack. It's not quite melee. And you can see, now that we've started hitting him, he's enraged, and he's going much faster than we are here. He's completely outrunning me until I use my Quicksilver. And I believe, yeah, so he'll calm down again eventually, but he rages pretty quickly, so if you need to, like, wait until he's not raging to kill him, just be careful that he's going to gain a lot of move speed when he goes into rage. I mean, that's basically all there is to Argus. He'll drop this div card a lot. It's pretty bad usually. Normally you want Scarabs for the guaranteed proc of your Nico, but you know, if you wanna farm them off of Argus, I guess you could. If you're like really desperate for some Sulfite and SSF, I don't know. So you can see here that over here we've got a door. Now, near the doors, you're going to find these little things you can check, and it'll tell you that we're actually going here. Now, why is this? So generally the way you want to look at this image in most situations, sometimes it can be a little finicky, is as this is where we came in, right? So this is actually like the bottom right-ish of our screen where we came from. So you can see that top left is where we are, and this is the top left. So you almost want to flip this like 90 degrees to the left here, and like make it vertical, right? And then that's how you want to look at it when you're trying to figure out where you want to go. So the exit is generally for the first room always in the same spot on the right side. It can be different, but it's over here, right? And it'll usually be in this little side area up here. That's like pretty normal. You'll like learn the layouts as you do more labs. It is randomly generated, but there's a lot of like little tricks to kind of figuring out where you can find stuff. So I generally like to go just check over here real quick. If I'm not looking at the map, usually if there's a dark shrine, it'll either be over here or it'll be over on this side in this type of room area. So it'd be like over here or something on the other side of like whatever traps or whatever are over there. Obviously there's no dark shrine in this room as we saw with the map, but if you weren't looking at the map, it's pretty quick to check, and then you usually want to, again, still going up to the top right anyways. So you can see we have a split here, and the aspirants should be on this side following the map, which it is, because this was on the left, right? But yeah, and then in any dark shrine room, you definitely want to do that because that's how you're going to find the dark shrines. And we will go find a couple through this run so you can kind of see what it's like to find them, because it's a little tricky at first until you really know what you're looking for. So here we have these the idols, right? And basically we're just going to wait for him to gain his buffs. Once he's gained them with this particular mechanic, we don't need to like keep these alive. Because they don't die, you just like turn them off, and that's okay. As long as they've like activated to buff him, I think you're okay. You can see that this one's sword is glowing because it's already activated, and once this one activates, its sword will also start glowing. And you see, even though they reset, the swords are still glowing. Now you're gonna see the goddess on top is actually the thing that's hitting us the most, because it's throwing those green, like I think fire orbs at us. And those are pretty easy to dodge, but that can be one of the big ones that kills a lot of people. You can see he does have his two-handed mace, and he's just doing two-handed mace attacks, so mostly melee stuff. I believe the sword is more dangerous because he gets like a sword wave slash and some stuff. But yeah, that's basically it. So we're just going to push him to the threshold, which is, I believe, 66%, right? And then we'll go on to the next room here. So we're looking to go, there's only one exit here, but it might be a little bit to the left is kind of what I'm getting out of this map. There is a gauntlet, and I feel like we may have just walked straight into the gauntlet. Yeah, so let's just see here. So you can see there's a labyrinth trove, so we're not even going to bother trying to find the switches and things in order to do this one. So yeah, generally, it was one of these ones where you want to stand in the thing, and then minions will spawn as you go, and then you just walk with this thing all the way to the end. Definitely not worth it, unless you're farming like endgame grind thing for a league, and it's one of the ones where you need treasure keys. Then it can be okay. You want to get as many treasure keys as you can per run. But it's one of those things where you can check the goodness. The reward, if it's going to be a curious lockbox or a labyrinth trove, before you do anything here. I'm getting a little distracted here because I'm trying to talk as well, but let's just take a quick look at the map pathing here. So we started up over here, right? And you can see that we basically had a dead end up top with the gauntlet, so we had to come around this way, which is kind of an interesting pathing here. So if we just keep following along this way to the top right, there will eventually be a point where we can probably go left a bit and then find the exit. And of course, these things aren't always 100%. Like, the layouts are like still semi-randomized, right? So it's going to be a little bit tricky sometimes. And you can see these traps doing a lot of damage because this is the I-83 one, and they are much stronger than otherwise. Traps generally do deal percent damage, so me having a large amount of health isn't really very helpful for surviving. You can see we've walked into the silver key area here, so we're just going to go out. And there's our door. Let's just go take a look down at the bottom. Yeah, so you can see that, like, it was just in the top right generally anyways, because it was the one door, I suppose. The layout's, again, very tricky. As long as you're going generally to the top right, and then you kind of take deviation in the path when you see it, you can generally get where you're going pretty quick. Alright, so what do we got in here? We got a dark shrine in this room, so we're going to actually look for that. So you can see I went up the left and there wasn't anything there. Sometimes it might be a little farther up, but I think it's more likely it's going to go and be on this side, and here we are. So you can see over here that there's a path on our map that is blocked by this wall. And you can see it usually has this little skinny part into a like small room, and that's how you identify it as a dark shrine generally. And generally you just want to mouse over until you find the switch wherever it's hidden. Sometimes it'll be like over here, somewhere near the door usually. Very rarely you'll find it like in a little side room or something, but most of the time it's just beside the door somewhere, and that'll open up this path so that we can take the dark shrine. There'll usually be some mobs in there. And you can see we got a regen shrine, very useful for staying alive. And this will apply to everyone in the party. The only ones that don't are the reward ones, so things like extra enchant goes to whoever clicks the reward. But you want to be clicking these if you're doing lab carries as well, so that you can kind of help keep your person you're carrying alive if they're struggling. And you can see that we have a lot of different door options here, and we're just trying to check the map device here to see where we're going. I don't think it was this one, but let me just double check. Yeah, no. So you can see that. So that one was the silver one, and this one's this one. So the next one over should be this one, because this is where we came in. So we just got to go actually left here and break from that top right strategy that normally leads you where you need to go. Bingo. Alright. And if anyone else has any tricks about the layout, you can leave them in the comments, I guess. But yeah, it's pretty much just practice and learning. Like when you run a lot of labs, you'll just kind of get used to it. It's more like a force of habit than anything else. You'll see he doesn't really pick up any new attacks during each of the phases, and these are the essences, so we're going to want to kill him before the essence has a chance to walk into him and assimilate with him. If you let them if you let them touch him and they go into him, that'll count as buffing him, so that's fine for the case of like getting the keys here. But if you have an ability like mine where you're hitting him and then you proc arc, and then you're like hitting randomly and you kill them, it's not very easy to keep them alive while killing the Izaro unless you wait for all of them to get to him, and they're really slow at like moving towards him. You can walk him towards them, but generally easier just to kill them before they spawn. Okay, so what do we got here? So here we have a dark shrine, so I'm going to go left here, and it is a gold door room, so we're going to have to go find the gold key, which is in usually a room that's near the gold door. And we can see this room over here that looks awfully sus. There's just like no pathing to get over there except down here, and then that's a really small room. So this is 100% a dark shrine. And then another one of these dead giveaways, this type of like side area where it, like when you see this on your map, this is a dark shrine. Like you just know once you've like run a lot of them, this layout is very, very common. So we're just gonna look, and there's the switch. Just checking like around the area, we'll find it for you. And sometimes you get portals into the to jump to the Izaro from those, and then that can be really cool because in this case we might have even skipped a golden door. So you can see here that with this I-83 lab, we are taking 80% increased damage from the traps, and they have 80% increased effectiveness of dot. So the trap's dealing a lot of damage. Izaro is 300% life, 30% damage, 30% action speed on the lab mobs, and labyrinth mobs 50 damage and 200% increased life. So some pretty swole mods. Those mods change based on the daily lab. As well as I believe the variant you're running of the I-83 labs. And I would say that this is generally one of the easier ones. The trap damage can be very rough if you don't have good ways to handle it. But things like Izaro turbo speed and Argus turbo speed can be really dangerous. So that would be what I would watch out for. And generally just going through traps, let's just talk about the traps for a second. So you can see here that these are timed spikes, and these are plated spikes. You know, because they have this little circle in the middle, this is like a pressure plate. So basically these will proc shortly after you step on them. So you just kind of want to run over these. That's why I was standing like on top of the saw blade, so that I didn't get hit by those spikes while I waited for these ones to come down. And then yeah, the saw blades just on their path. It's fine to run over them as long as you're going the opposite direction, right? So like, if this zombie's coming here and I'm coming here, I'm only passing over that zombie for like a second, right? Or skeleton, right? And it's the same thing with the trap. Whereas if you're walking with it, you're like trying to run away, but you're running in the same direction as it. These things are gonna wreck you. And then also I should note that these like hazards can be kind of bad, particularly the green ones. Green hazards are the worst, and then the purple one is a slow. So there's two green ones. This one damages you when you use a movement skill, and for me using Cyclone, that's pretty bad, because if I want to cast my Cyclone, and I'm like, and I'm in radius, I'm going to take a pretty big hit from that one. But once you're using it, right, you've already done the initial, like, action to, like, do that skill. So I can like hold down and then go through like a hazard like that and it'll be fine. And then the other green one is the just regular green circle, which I haven't seen any here. This is again a damage one. But the other one, this one here, is an increased damage shrine. Or hazard, I suppose. So these ones can be a little rough too, because they just increase your damage taken from other sources. So you just want to watch out for those. Go through here, and generally for these gold key side areas, it's almost always a loop around like this, with the gold key being over here. And if there's a dark shrine, it's just very often always over on the left side over here. But as we can see by our lab layout that we looked at, I'll just bring it over for a second here, there is no dark shrine here. And we're not going to go for these ones because they're kind of out of the way. We're just going to go straight to the Aspirant's Trial. Actually, we are going to go a little bit out of our way and get those, because this is the I-83 belt lab, and so we want as many belt enchants as we can possibly get. So we're going to try and get the extra enchant dark shrines. So we are actually going to go check out those other dark shrines. Bingo, yeah. Just make sure I'm going the right way. Right, so we are actually not looking for the exit, but we're still going to go this way and just kind of see the rooms as we go by. You can see there's a little room up here. Map is the best thing ever. Right, yep, so this is not the Aspirant's Trial, so we're just going to hop in here. And these rooms, I think, generally are going to have similar layout to the gold door rooms. The lava ground, generally not going to deal much damage if you have really high max res. Just make sure we actually hit both of the timed cranks instead of just one. Goodness. Alright, so we're gonna go down here. You can see this like room here. This is the Dark Shrine. And you can also see that there's this door here. We couldn't come through on this side, but the lever here will let us out, so that kind of also let us know that something was up in this area. But usually once you're past the trap, it's somewhere on this side for sure. So we got additional treasure key on death, so we're actually going to try and go check out the other room. I'm sorry, I'm saying actually a lot. Not too tricky. Okay, so the next room off to the left should be the Aspirant's Trial, and we're just going to run past it real quick and go check for another Dark Shrine in the other room. So I think that's this one. Actually, the trial might be up here. I think this might be the the right spot, but we're going to take a look. No, that is the trial, so we got to go farther to the left. Whew. Here we go. Just hop right around in this direction here through the trap gauntlet. Just give ourselves a few seconds to recoup some of our energy shield here. Make sure we're hitting mobs to keep the flash charges up, get some leech going while we're running through. And this here is the Dark Shrine. So in the estate, you're going to generally have a harder time with the layouts, or at least I do. But you can see just over here, there's again this path that was blocked by a wall and leads to nowhere in this big plaza area. And that's a dead giveaway usually. Alright, we did get an additional use of the Divine Font. Honestly, I think I just took a super Pepega here. I think we already had the additional Bless. Because I was thinking that this line was just inherent to the map. I was thinking of the gift one where it says that you get 6 uses. So I think we already had this one. We just got additional unique on death instead. So we probably didn't have to run through those rooms. But I'm glad that we did, because we got to check out an estate Dark Shrine. Because those are slightly different. So we're just going to wrap around here, go finish off that last Izaro. I don't believe we disabled boss traps, so we can go take a look at some of the boss traps. Those will also change every day, along with the layout. And keep our Quicksilver up as much as possible to try and our Tailwind up as much as possible, just hitting mobs now and then to get those procs as often as we can. Alright. So you can see here, we got some blade sentries going around, we got some spikes in the corner. He does have a move that teleports you into the traps. The traps will also damage Izaro, although I imagine on IV3 Lab, he has too much life for them to really matter like that. And you can see he's got like his buffs from the other rooms. He already had the one from the first room in the last encounter, but you can see he's doing the like spheres because we gave him that buff. And just keep in mind that every time my ES goes really low, I have a lot of mitigation, but my energy shield is 5k. That's about equivalent to someone's like life pool on like a very squishy character. So you can kind of tell this guy's doing a lot of damage. And we can just go here. We got 2 enchants, so we can go and enchant this belt, see some of the other enchants. Armor while you have Fortify, not what I was going for there. Let's try again. Enemies maimed take 8% increased damage over time. Also not quite what I was going for. Let's go. We got one last one because I had it twice enchanted. And armor on Fortify again. So I'm going to have to go run more of these later, and that's okay. always remember to click the divine font when you're doing your regular labs, just to make sure you get that ascendancy to it. Sorry, click the altar of ascendancy, not the divine font. In fact, do this before you touch the divine font, just in case something happens. You don't want to get stuck having to rerun lab for no reason, right? Anyways, I'll leave you guys with that. Hopefully it was helpful. And I'll have more another time.